Since our theme this evening is collaboration, I want to talk to you guys about one of the biggest and most significant collaborations we've done with our content design team in the past couple of months, which is getting together with the design system team. When you signed up for this meetup or read anything about it, you saw that I called it the ultimate mashup, because that's how I thought about it at first. You know, we put our two teams together and we made something wonderful and it was magic. But it didn't really work that way. It was a long process. We had to get to know each other. We learned a lot about each other. We had a little falling out. We made up. We learned some more about each other. And then we came up with something wonderful in our collaboration together. And so that's less of a mashup and more of a rom-com, a product design rom-com, if you will, when content design met design systems. I'm going to try my, oh, why is it stuck? Try my best movie voice. This holiday season, they both have users on the mind, but can they make it work? So let's meet our cast of characters. First up is the content design team, the UX content design team, the UX writing team. We're kind of evolving our naming. And we're a small plucky team of 6 writers total, split between our Tel Aviv site here, our site in Nashville, and our site in Sterling. Our main source of truth that we maintain together and that we work on is the UX content guidelines, which is our source of truth for all of our product writing. And when I say product, I mean everything Asurion does: internal things, customer-facing things, expert-facing things, anything that has words. And we stay really closely aligned with our brand and marketing meetings to brand and marketing teams to make sure that we have one cohesive Asurion voice. And this is us. On the left are the content designers in Sterling and Nashville, and on the right is us. So I'm here. We have Oren in the back, who will write anything you throw at him, including the stickers you see there. And we have Aya, who is the OG UX writer at Soluto. She's been our freelancer for 3 years, right here in the front row. And on the other side, we have the design system team, which is also built and maintained and managed collaboratively between Tel Aviv and Nashville. Their source of truth, not a big surprise, the global pattern library, we call it the GPL, which is which unifies and includes all of our products and experiences. And they're part of a big global team called Asurion UI, which is a team of designers and developers who make sure all of our design and our code is built together across all of our sites. And you might notice that I'm talking about 2 teams, but there's only me up here. This is our core design system team, or 2 designers who work there. Colin is based in Nashville. Yuval is based in Tel Aviv, but he's actually, he sent me this like 5 minutes before the meetup started. That's what he's doing all this week, along with a lot of our product and design leadership. They're having a lot of meetings with folks in Nashville to prepare for 2022. And I actually think he's not in this picture. I think he took this picture. And so how many of you have ever worked or seen a design system, worked within it? Okay, so good. Glad to see so many hands up. But this is just a little overview of what ours looks like, the basic structure. So we have the pattern name, some key usage notes and instructions for designers to refer to our documentation, the types, like the different variants and what it would look like, and of course the real life product example. So they know, what it would look like in the product with all those examples. So there we were, this small but growing content design team. We went out looking for design love. We wanted to make a change in the world. We wanted to find our connection. And we found ourselves being usually single UX writers standing in front of about 10 to 15 designers each. That's about our ratio across Asurion, asking them to just please stop writing login. We've changed it to sign in with a space a long time ago. Yes, a struggle that many of you probably identify with, because whether you've changed your terminology, or maybe that's when your terminology all along, it's like whack-a-mole. Like people will always end up using the wrong thing. They will capitalize the wrong thing. They won't add a space. They have something in their mind that they can't quite let go of. And for us, it was this big struggle because we wanted to support all these designers, but we kept trying to meet them in all these different places, and it was very frustrating for us. So we took a step back and we thought, okay, well, what do we really want to do here? So we want to create impact and have consistency. We want to have that consistency and impact across a lot of designers at the same time without losing our minds. And we wanted to do less of that copy editing work and more actual focus on UX, because we are to work on designs and don't want to do that login sign in game all day long. So thought about it a little bit. We went looking for where all the designers hang out, which is, of course, Figma. So we decided to start putting ourselves out there and start meeting designers where they are. And what we came up with is cheat sheets. This was actually put out, this was put out about a month after I started. Most of this work was done by the content designers in Nashville and Sterling. They come as a set of 2 UX writer, some steps like when do you set up? You set up as 2 words, and we put this in Figma because we wanted to be where designers are. We think they'll have it right on the UX writer on their shoulder. We also put it into the new project template in Figma, so we'll always be there. We'll always be on their mind. And then we came to the design system guys, and we said, "Hey, look at what we did. We did this with the help of our quirky best friend, the content ops team." And we said, "Hey, we put this in Figma. Isn't it great? It's wonderful. We love it. We hope you love it. Now we need your help in maintaining it. You know, when we want to make changes, who do we talk to? Will you put it out with your release notes when you make design system changes?" And their general response was, "What are you talking about?" Because one of the main things that didn't happen as we were creating these cheat sheets was communication. We didn't really see if this was a fit for them. You know, we're coming into their design tools. We were coming into their space with our stuff, putting things in their space. And then we expected them to kind of play along with us, and they were less cool with that. And this is where it starts raining. There's some sad music. We had that little bump in the road, that falling out. We had to do some talking. And we had to explain, kind of make our case, explain ourselves, come to them and say, "Hey, this is why you should have content design as a part of design systems." It wasn't quite this dramatic, but I did have a lot of conversations with those designers to show them examples of what companies like Intuit have done with content design systems, and show them what our combined future could be if we work together. We could have this amazing collaboration and relationship together. And also we kind of took a step back and thought within the content design team, what do we really want? So the cheat sheets were kind of a quick fix. It wasn't an easy fix, but it was one thing that would be specific to specific situations, but we can't cover every situation with a cheat sheet. We'll have infinite cheat sheets, and then we'll end up right back in that long documentation that no designer likes to read. So the more we talked about it, the more we realized we have very similar goals. So we started coming together. So as UX writers, we want to improve copy for our users, and the design system wanted to improve tools for designers who create things for those users. We have the writing guidelines for a common foundation, and they have design tools for a common foundation. We guide and support design teams as they create products, and they guide and support design teams as they make products. And you see that it's starting to kind of funnel down and come together, and we really have one ultimate shared goal, which is to create better products and experiences for our users and for the designers creating things for those users. So we got over it. We got over the fight. We made up, and it was time to really start working together using my favorite love language, processes. Yes. So we had such a breakdown in communication before. So this was the first place we started. So we we got together both as individual writers and designers, and also connecting the two teams. And we figured out what the process that would work the best for us in order to actually start working on the design system and to start improving it and having better copy there and having some UX writing say in how things are presented in the design system. So we decided on that review and editing process together. It is mostly an emoji-based process. Like we mark things with different emojis in Figma when they're ready. And then we went our separate ways. First of all, they duplicated the pattern library so they could keep working, they can keep doing their thing without us constantly coming in and having them change it. And then as writers, we divided up the different patterns among us. We did a peer review process. We shared the workload, and we really went through every, like no comma, no period went unturned. We looked at every single thing to make sure that we were being as thorough as possible, because we knew that this would be an amazing opportunity to have a lot of impact here. We didn't want to do, kind of half a job. And once we finished it, in these batches, we gave them to the design system so they can review it. They would answer questions. They would make sure that what we did actually fit in with what they need and what they think. And then they implemented it into the design system, into the global pattern library, and released it whenever they would release new updates. So now you're probably asking yourself, okay, well, what did this actually look like? What did we actually do? So first of all, we took our long UX writing documentation and we aligned everything to that. We took the documentation and the supporting text around the patterns, and we simplified and clarified that. We removed as many placeholders and lorem ipsums as we could. And of course, we made sure that all of the product examples had real copy and also like updated copy. So if things have changed since those product examples were put in, we updated them to make sure that whatever designers are looking at is the most up-to-date and realistic thing that they can get. In other words, the bottom line is, we applied UX writing principles to design documentation. So to give you a little taste of what that looked like. So this is how we replaced some lorem ipsums and placeholders with real examples. So for example, in this alert banner pattern, instead of having just random lorem ipsum there that doesn't really tell you what it is, like if a designer pulls this into their file, they don't know what's supposed to go in there necessarily or what it's supposed to do. So we added all that text in there to help them, to make it a more useful tool for them. And of course, all that was written according to our guidelines. And also we found patterns like this where it's like 99% written. Why is there a lorem ipsum on the CTA? So we kind of went over all those and added our UX writing touches. We also aligned everything to the style and content guidelines. So we had things like, so a few months ago, we went from writing Wi-Fi in like 15 different ways to writing it capital W, capital F with a dash in the middle. But it kept coming up in so many places. And again, it was that whack-a-mole. So we went to some of the original places where some of those components were being replicated from in the GPL and just changed it there. So now when designers take this pattern with the chips, it's already fixed there. And you can see that even in the original one, the Wi-Fi was written 2 different ways. So Wild West. And it was really important for us to not just talk the talk when we're showing these things to designers, but also walk the walk. So even the headers and the subheaders, all that got edited to make sure that it's within our style guide. So if we say that we don't use ampersands and we write everything, all of our headers in sentence case, then that's what we want designers to have in front of their eyes whenever they look at written words that have to do with the Sharia. And finally, we just improved the documentation and readability to make this a more useful tool for them, for existing designers, and also for new designers. Someone coming in to this complex system with like dozens of designers, dozens of things happening all at once. We want to make sure that they can get on board it and start working and start understanding things as quickly as possible. And for anyone coming to the GPL, like we saw, this probably wasn't one of the worst cases, but we saw things that we had a lot of questions about, like, what does this mean? How does this work? How are we supposed to understand this? So we had a lot of conversations with them and then ended up with a much clearer piece of text, which, as many of you may know, UX writing doesn't necessarily mean making things shorter. So this ended up being longer, but much clearer and much more useful. This is how they reacted. You can decide which one's Colin, which one's Yuval. But they loved it. Like as soon as they saw what we did, I think like the first time I showed them like the first batch of 10 patterns that we worked on, the switch flipped on and they got it immediately. Like they understood what we were trying to do. They understood why we were doing it. They just got it. And then not only did they get it, but they said, oh my God, we have to do so much more. Like all of a sudden, the dam opened and they had a lot more ideas of how we can have even more UX writing and more UX writing tips and getting us even more embedded within the design system. And our tools improved too. So as we were going through all these patterns individually, piece by piece, we realized that there were some discrepancies in our own writing guidelines. There were things that, we had kind of a broad rule, and looking at in a vacuum, all of a sudden things didn't make sense, or we needed to add, to rethink things or add exceptions. And this is one of the things that came out of there. Molly, it's this huge, it's of course linked with the case that it's written in, with the punctuation and the do's and don'ts. So subheader, things like that. And now we have dozens of things in there. So we're building on this very foundation, kind of doing the opposite of how we started. So having a lot of communication and visibility was missing for us in the beginning. That's what got us into trouble, and that's what got us out of trouble, making sure we're all aligned, making sure everyone knows what each side is doing. Having a lot of respect and trust in each other. So respect and trust for each other's specialties and professionalism, and them as designers, us as writers. We're not enemies, we're friends. And of course, that really close collaboration, not always. And that's how we had our head. But it's not a movie. I mean, we still have a lot more work to do. So some of the things that are coming ahead for us, or some things that have come out of this collaboration, is content design having a permanent seat on Asurion UI alignment meetings, and also kind of an open invitation for design system alignment meetings with individual designers. So we can be there when new things are coming up. We can advise. We don't find out about things when they're too late after a pattern has already been developed. We're getting involved in many more design documentations and guides. So new things, existing things, like they have this like foundations guide, like kind of an FAQ for all of our design. Like they gave that to one of the writers in Nashville, or in Sterling actually, to review and edit and make sure that it's aligned to the work that we've done in the GPL. And they're also being more proactive. So when they're working on something new, they'll come to us now. And they'll ask us about naming, they'll ask us about how to write things, how to describe them when they release it out to designers. And of course, we're adding as much more contextual copy and examples as possible, including, and this was something that Yuval approached me with, and I'd love to hear, content-driven usage guidelines. So using the content within the pattern and what the pattern is used for to guide designers about which pattern they should choose. So when do you use an alert banner? When do you use a toast? It probably depends on the type of information that you're trying to communicate to the user. And I mean, we're really in it for the long term. We have so much more left to build. We're looking together how we can evolve, how we can be the most impactful, how we can stay dynamic together. Like our product is always changing, our teams are always changing. We need to evolve together with them. And we're planning, or we have this huge vision for the future, or Asurion UI has this huge vision for the future, for one unified source of truth for our design, our UI code, and content, or at least most of our content. And that's it. Thank you. And just